Hello, DPP Community. Thank you for tuning in the 4TheRecord podcast. 4TheRecord is a digital product passport consultancy agency that helps institutions and industry players to develop and implement their DPP strategy. Today, I'm speaking with Hervé Dallouin. He is leader RFID and traceability at Decathlon. I'm talking with him about the DPP-like technology that Decathlon has already implemented, why they took this decision, and what efficiencies it brings Decathlon for their logistics and the recycling process. Hervé is also explaining what new business models and opportunities the technology enables, and why Decathlon decided to use RAIN as the data carrier that is attached to every product today. I wish you an informative entertainment. Welcome to the podcast Digital Product Passport Insights. My name is Susanne Gut-Olowski. I'm the founder of 4TheRecord, a digital product passport consulting agency. My guest today is my dear co-expert, the Sensenelec DPP Standardization Committee, JTC24. He is on the board of directors of the RAIN Alliance, and he is the leader of RFID and traceability at Decathlon, which is one of the largest sports retailers worldwide. I'm delighted to have you on this DPP Insights show. Bonjour et bienvenue, Hervé Dallouin.
Good day, Suzanne. Glad to be here.
Hervé, thanks for coming. And before we start going into the details, please, as a first thing, introduce yourself and your role at Decathlon.
Yes, with pleasure. So I am lucky enough to incarnate and animate, in fact, two very big initiatives within Decathlon. The first one is related to the RFID project that we started 10 years ago, and that we will have the pleasure to discuss also during this podcast. So we are one of the first massive implementation of RFID. And I'm also in charge of traceability because, in fact, most of our traceability is based on RFID and data that are generated through RFID events. So a reading of the RFID on each product. And in this perspective, in fact, I'm also in charge of building the infrastructure and I would say the platform that will support the DPP, the Digital Product Passport of Decathlon.
Thank you for the introduction. Hervé, I heard you speak at a panel discussion lately, and you said something along the lines that at Decathlon, you already have a DPP technology. Can you please explain to the audience what you mean by that?
Yes. So we have, of course, it was made before the Digital Product Passport was in the scene. So we call this product the digital twin. Because it is based on the fact that we have 100% of our product that we sell through Decathlon, whether they are or not manufactured by Decathlon, they have an RFID tag. Mm-hmm. So this means that they have a unique ID. And in fact, thanks to this capacity, this unique ID on each product, in fact, we are building a digital twin. So it's a bit self-explanatory. It's a twin. It's a copy of the real product. And we store all events of the life cycle of the product. And we store that in a way where everything is retrievable from the production until I would say today the sale, but it's going to be after sale. So we are adding more and more modules to be able to capture events linked to circularity. So when we resell a product, when we are going to recycle the product, we are generating events. Today, more or less, we are capturing around 40 billion of events a year. Mm. So it's really a mature, let's say, platform. And it is very, it's in a nutshell, in fact, it was made like 5 years ago, we started that. And now we are really mature on some of the elements that are required within the Digital Product Passport. In some cases, in fact, we go beyond. Of course, there are some missing points, so we'll have to adjust compared to what is going to be required by the European Commission.
Mm. Can you remember, I don't know, were you there when this decision was made to use RFID? What fostered the decision to digitize your processes and to put RAIN tags into all of your products? Why did you start this process?
Yes, in fact, it was driven by several elements that were all linked to efficiency. Mm-hmm. So we were not speaking at all about, let's say, transparency or some other, let's say, processes that are now on the table with the European Commission. So efficiency in many areas. The main, I would say, driver for Decathlon was the fact that, in fact, the inventory accuracy is not really very good when you are a retailer like Decathlon. On average, when we were doing fiscal inventory, so you have to make some inventory at least one or twice a year, depending on the country where you are, for I would say taxes reasons. In fact, the accuracy was between 60, 70, 80% maximum. This means that in fact you have shortage that you don't know. You are missing sales. Of course, when there is one product that is not on the shelf, you can find a replacement product in some cases, but in some cases you cannot. So we have a rule of thumb saying that 3% of better inventory means 1% of turnover. So this is important because in the end, because you have a better inventory, you are able to reduce, in fact, the stock, the inventory, because you know it perfectly, and you increase sales without touching any other operational elements such as the number of square meter of sales or the number of employees. You are seeing, in fact, your first line, which is something that is quite incredible for a retailer. It's a kind of magical effect. Of course, there are some other points such as fight against shrinkage, efficiency in logistics, so many other key points, but they were all linked, in fact, to efficiency. So increase the top line or sometimes the bottom line by reducing costs. But this were at that time, 10 years ago, the main driver. Now, if you look at the situation, and the people that are now going into the RFID way, we could say, they do that more for user experience reasons. But under this user experience, the freshness of the stock is very important.
What do you mean with user experience? What use cases do Raintex support there?
So it's mostly experience in the store. So you have interaction in store. For instance, within Decathlon now we have product comparator. So it's a kind of table you put two products, and in fact it's a little bit like when you're doing e-commerce, you have a full comparison of the different attributes, and you are able to understand what are the differences between two products. You know, sometimes customers were saying it's easier to shop online because you have all the information that you can see on the screen. It's true when you are going physical, sometimes the information is not so easy to get.
Yeah.
So all these different elements where you can bring, I would say, we have seen some retailers using, magic mirrors. So there are a lot of elements regarding user experience. But I would say also in some cases after sale. So today, for instance, within Decathlon, we are already implementing new process in terms of product return. We facilitate the product return in stores.
Yeah.
And in fact, we are able also to secure this product return. So when somebody says, I bought this product there, then you can check it was already really bought. So you have some
evidence.
Some evidence, and you don't have to know your customer by asking for the receipt or stuff like that. Everything is in our digital twin. So we store that efficiently, and we use now more and more this information for interaction with customer to augment this interaction and to provide a better service.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that in the store you can also compare different products with each other, because that's also one of the parts the Digital Product Passport should bring. I'm talking about the web portal that is planned in the Digital Product Passport architectural system landscape, if you want, where customers shall be able to compare one product with the other, maybe compare it with regards to sustainability or other attributes. So that's super interesting. Let me maybe ask one more question around that. Can you give us a few examples where concretely efficiency is achieved in your internal processes? So, I mean, is there, for example, waiting times or logistics, or what exactly are you saving there?
So it's really linked to the process in terms of. So it depends really on the different processes. But we, in fact, when you're doing picking, for instance, in Decathlon, we have a process where a store doesn't need to buy goods in bulk. they can really choose to get 3 t-shirts of this size, 2 t-shirts. I know some other retailer, you can only order a box.
Yeah.
In Decathlon, you can order good by good because we really want to have, in fact, the stores that are able to manage by themselves their stocks so that there is no overstock. So really, the responsibility is at the store level. But to do that, you need to have a little bit of, you need to be able to order product per product. And then we have a picking in our warehouse. Beforehand, the picking was done by trying to find the QR code, or let's say the barcode at that time, because it was a barcode. It's sometimes very complicated to look at that. Now with the RFID, you take your product on the shelf, it beeps, it registers that you have picked the right product, so you can really trace the product and localize the product anywhere in your logistic infrastructure. But you're unsure that you didn't make any mistakes in the picking, and it's in the gesture, in fact. So you don't lose time trying to find the data carrier, the QR code, or you directly, in fact, read the product, and you can read several at a time. So in terms of efficiency, it's seconds that you win per picking of products. But for instance, if you look at Decathlon, we are doing an average of a little bit more than 1 billion products a year. You can imagine when you multiply by the quantities, it is making a huge difference.
Absolutely, thank you. And then with this less storage or this more efficient storage, we also directly have impact to the sustainability of the product or the entire process, right? So with less storage or less warehouses, or what is your experience in the last years? What were the efficiencies there?
So basically, we gain efficiency also in store. So square meter in store is even more costly, and okay, it's a place that you eat during winter, and so we are in fact much more efficient. We have less product in stock. We reduce also the EPV, which is in French, notion what we have in Decathlon. To translate it in English, it's the difference between the face price and the real price done. So it accounts for all discount that you made because you discover, I don't know, a stock of skis during the summer. You have to get rid of that. So you make huge discounts. In fact, the number of discount in Decathlon has drastically decreased. So all these different elements, in fact, reduction of number of square meter. We have managed to downsize sometimes surfaces and to rent part of square meter to some stores that are bringing, I would say, more traffic to the store also. So some kind of complementary activities. And of course, Decathlon is a growing company. So in fact, in terms of warehouse, in fact, we have not reduced the size of the warehouse. We do more product per square meter in a warehouse.
And that's interesting. Do you also see efficiency or less overproduction or less textile waste on your side? Because that's one of the big topics that come with textiles.
So in fact, we can identify, and we will be able soon, because what we are building now is complementary technology to really go until up in the chain, where we will be able to link, in fact, the idea of the product with the real buying of the raw material. And that, of course, we have to do without RFID, because there is no RFID on the raw material, and on the pack of cotton, you don't have anything. We could have in the future some additional RFID, but I don't know if this is sustainable or not. In the end, we want to be able to link all these different elements so that we have a full traceability, and we know and we can show to our customer, in fact, that our products are, for instance, eco-designed. Because the important element here is to be able to give information to our end customer. We want to show the good things we do, because we want customer, in fact, to be attracted, or at least to have the choice between eco-design and maybe more traditional products. But this has a cost for sure to be eco-design. But we believe that as years are passing, we're going to have more and more demand for this kind of products. So we need to better identify these products. So we are completely aligned with, I would say, the objective of Europe in terms of digital product passport. In fact, we want to show that we are doing good things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you do. And every time I speak to the industry, I think Decathlon is really the leader in this space, at least in Europe. Maybe, I don't know, other geographies too well. But in Europe, you've already implemented so many things that others now start while thinking about how to implement the digital product passport. And there's one other question in that direction. So, you started with Rain, and you're one of the big appliers and users of Rain. Can you give us an example of upstream traceability? I think you already said with the material, so maybe we remove that. But during the lifetime of a product or life cycle of a product, are you using it to enable that, and maybe also something for end of life, where that is especially important? And the audience always likes concrete examples, so if you could give some there.
So in fact, to be able to, I would say, open the new process of recycling and to have a better recycling, the very important point is to be able to sort depending on the composition of the product. And when we mean composition, it's not like cotton or synthetic fiber. It has to go beyond that. So when we say, for instance, wool, we need to know if it is natural wool, if it is merino's wool, if this wool have a specific, I would say, label that is an eco label that, for instance, that is checking that we are protecting the animals, for instance. So in fact, when we are sorting all these products when they become end of life, we need to really insist on the sorting in order to be able to say, okay, this pack of wool that we are going to recycle can pretend to keep its label like animals protection or bio cotton, all these elements, because then it will increase, in fact, the value of the raw material that you recycle. If you don't, and if you mix everything, in fact, your recycled raw material will have the value of the worst part that was inside, in fact, this lot. So we need to be able really to sort much better the product. And that's where RFID comes into play, because we are testing now RFID tags that are a little bit different than I would say, the usual one. It is integrated inside the product. And in fact, since several years, we are checking that, in fact, it is still readable during standard life of a sports product. Sport product, you wash them much very often compared to natural textile. So the number of washing cycle has to be increased, and we are testing. We have done some tests in labs, but we are testing in life. So few million products, we get them back, and we see now, up to now, they are still working. So this means that this year, probably, we are going to make the first test of recycling. Of course, it's going to be testing, but then what we will be testing is not only that the RAIN RFID can still provide the identity of the product, but we will be also testing that we can send the composition data to the sorter. So connection, so it's a kind of also a premiere of DPP doing recycling. So we are going to do that by the end of the year. And we want, in fact, DPP will allow to be interoperable in this aspect, because we will not have to discuss about the Decathlon way of giving this information. It has to be standardized so that the sorter only implement it once. So maybe we will be the first, but not the last. And everybody will be able to do that. We have maybe a little bit of advance, but in the end, what we need to do is recycle all the textile products and not only Decathlon products. So this is for recycling. And then you have also, for instance, we can extend to second life. Today, when we receive a product second life, we have to retag it, because we cannot make the link with, let's say, the full life cycle of the product. Starting this year, in fact, we don't do that anymore. We are keeping, in fact, the identity of the product, because the whole IT environment in a store is able to differentiate between, I would say, a new product and a non-new product. So we are inventory the product in two different stocks, depending on the status of the product. We are making a different pricing at the cash till. Of course, it's important that when you are buying a second-hand product, you don't pay the price of a new product. It will not be very good for our customer. So everything, in fact, is done. Beforehand, the product was adapting itself. Now it is the environment that is adapting itself towards the product that keeps it long life identity.
Yeah, and this is also already a path to product as a service, kind of, isn't it? Or are you already offering product as a service?
Yes, we make a lot of tests today at business level. We did a kind of complete subscription in Belgium, where you have to pay upfront a fee per month, and you have access to a certain amount of value of product, and you can exchange every hour, every day. So you take your tennis racket. The next day you come back with your tennis racket and you ask for a badminton racket. And as long as all the product that you have with you is not over a certain limit, you pay a fee per month. We are also working now more globally on subscription, long-term subscription of bikes, for instance. You know, for your kids are using a bike maybe 1 year, 2 years. Why buying them? You can make a long-term subscription. If you are traveling in a country for 3-4 months, you can also rent a bike for 3-4 months. And of course, we have both model. You could buy a bike for your kids and sell them second life when kids grow up, but you can also rent them. And you have also the reparation and all the different. You could have some insurance. So we provide services around the product.
And it's probably easier for the customer to bring it directly back and not putting it on a platform where someone has to buy it and then you have to send it there yourself and so forth. So very nice offering. And probably we will have a lot of tennis teams in Belgium soon because they're playing with the best rackets every day. Interesting to hear that as well. Hervé, a little bit of a different topic, but you teased it already. You said that the DPP is changing the way that companies are communicating with each other in future. And you mentioned that as well in a different format, where you say previously you had to get into a contract with a certain company and then discuss which data to exchange to increase, your processes, your sustainability. Please explain why you think that the DPP is changing the way the companies are communicating with each other.
So what is now today in definition is a GTC 24 is really this kind of interoperability element. What should be the access right? What should be communicated to whom? In which kind of format? So even though I don't believe we will make a unique way of coding, attributes, they are working on meta semantics, let's say, so that we are able to discuss with each other. It's a kind of translation. We don't share necessarily the same language in terms of product description, but we will be understandable with each other. And I think these new layers that are going to be implemented, for instance, by sorters, we will be able to explain what is the composition. Some competitors will explain their composition, and then the sorter will understand everything.
Yeah.
And this kind of interoperability layer for me is very critical and is key in, I would say, the process of Europe. And you spoke about the web portal. In the end, if the ambition of the Europe Commission is to provide a web portal that will allow to compare two products, we need to have this interoperability. So this is very important for the consumers. This is very important for the people that are going to do renting on top of our products, that are going to recycle our products. We need to be interoperable beforehand. As you said, we had to provide a specification, to discuss on the specification, to agree on a specific format, to make some testing, to see if it was working, yes or no. So it's a long process. It's also a costly process. In the future, I believe that, and I think it's also the spirit and the intention of the Commission to facilitate this new circular model by providing a framework that they call the Digital Product Passport.
Yeah, absolutely. And the European Commission always also says that it takes some time until people understand the system and trust the system. And for other platforms, central platforms, it took 5 years until this entire process worked. But now it's working in a lot of industries already. And this makes it just easier for an ad hoc data exchange, right? You don't have to sign a contract with a recycler then set up some ideas about how to exchange data, then set up a secure line and, sign the data before you send it for back and forth. So this all should come with a digital product passport system. And this is why I like the statement so much, what you made in this other format. And it brings me to, and maybe before we do that, just a short explanation of the JTC 24. So it is an activity from the European Commission where a standardization request has been sent to CENLEC, which is a standardization organization on the European level. And it has come up with a joint technical committee 24, which is now defining the DPP framework and system, and has 4 working groups. And Hervé, I think you're in 1, 2, 3 of them. I don't know. The first one is the strategic advisory group. The second one is about unique identifiers and data carriers. Then we have 3, which is security, and 4, which is exchange protocols on a high level of the more definitions there. Well, and you're active in most of those, right?
Yes. So the objective is not to stay active alone. So I'm bringing some experts, but in fact, some working group like the security is just launched. So we need to understand exactly what are going to be the subjects that are going to be discussed to bring the right people. But indeed, Decathlon wants to be there all the time because, in fact, we are what is called in the DPP, in the ASPR, an economic operator. So we will need to, and we are pleased to implement the DPP because we already have it almost. So we know why we will use that and how we can take benefit of this kind of infrastructure. But definitely, we are concerned by the 4 working group. As we said today, the digital twin that we have is only working in-house. We don't exchange data. Exchange with the sorter that we explained is going to be the first time we're going to expose outside data from our product passport. But in fact, we need to discuss about access rights. We need to discuss about security points. We need to discuss, of course, about the way we are going to connect with the European Commission, the APIs that are going to be formalized. We need, of course, to work on the data carrier, on the way we do the codification. Today, we are using GS1 codification, so it's very important. RAIN plus GS1 is a kind of magical, let's say, team. And of course, the strategic, we need to be there to explain exactly what we are doing and to have the whole community also benefiting from our experience.
Yeah. And outside of the JTC 24, which is defining the standards for the cross-sectoral DPP system, there's also the need for the textile-specific vocabulary, which is outside of that work. It's not considered there. What, in your view, is the best way to come to an aligned vocabulary about textiles?
It's a very complex process. I believe even in Decathlon, for instance, we have several ways to codify a color because we're using so many products. In textile, I think we have one way, hopefully. I'm not sure because you don't know 100% of what's happening in your company sometimes. But I would say we know more or less how it is coded. So to believe we're going to agree between sometimes competitors on the way to do that, I think it's going to be not the right approach. And it's not really what they push forward at the GTC 24 level. We need to be able to bring this kind of meta semantic. So I think we have some quite good experts, and I encourage if there are experts seeing us to join and to show to us how we are going to do because changing data codification for retailers like Decathlon is like a 3-year project. There are going to be more than 20 different, let's say, IT systems that are going to be impacted. Some that we master in-house, some that we have bought. So we need to ask to the people to whom we have bought to make some change. It may sound like, okay, straightforward. It is not.
Yeah.
So we need to find this kind of layer that will allow us to discuss together.
And what do you think is the right platform to do that? Is it the Eurotex? For example, in the in the battery example, we had the Global Battery Alliance that were giving input to the battery passport, and Catena X, which is also an industry consortium and a research project, kind of started this. It brought everything together. It is now going into an ISO specification, for example, that describes the attributes that are needed for a battery passport. How do you see that process for textiles?
It's difficult. I think the European Commission is animating also some product group. So you can register and then you ask questions, but it's not so interactive today. It might be in the future more interactive. Today we are asked to answer to some questions, but we don't discuss with each other. It's more a one-way discussion with the Commission. I believe it's going to be improved, and we are going to be able to tackle these different elements. Of course, in the end, if we want to standardize, we need to go to full SEN or ISO standardization, but it will take some time. At least we're going to see exactly what we need to standardize. And in fact, within the DCTC 24, we are going to explain what will be the basis of the digital product passport. Yeah. And of course, the delegated act will be built on that. So we need to understand how we are going to deal with semantics at the basic level, and then what do we need to do product category per product category. Yeah. Knowing that Decathlon, you know, we are touched by most of the categories, because in the Decathlon you can find any kind of product.
Yes, I know. This brings me a little bit to the outlook. You already have achieved a lot of things. For the DPP to come on the road, what do you see? What needs to be done in the next maybe 5 years for the product passport to be successful or to be launched successfully, and what maybe does that also mean for your company?
Yes, I think we should agree with the Commission that the Commission should explain objectives. So we say in Decathlon, they should explain what is the what. What do we need to do? And I think there should be some kind of trust in companies that know sometimes very well how to do it. If you impose a specific how, a very restrictive how, you may lead to some very big issue of implementation that will not be linked by the objective in itself, but by the way it has been requested. So for instance, I can give you an example. When we speak about, okay, we need to be able to inform the customers about the product. We spoke already in Decathlon, we have this product comparator. We have many different ways to explain to the customer. We can use in also the digital receipt of a product. We can use, for instance, the customer account, where we put on your account, if you have an account with us, you can see everything that you've bought. So you don't need to go physical to make a digital link between a digital customer and a digital product. You can link that directly. So all these elements, I know there are a lot today in the law, because they speak about digital data carrier. It's completely aligned with that. But in fact, we should have the freedom to say, okay, this is the way we want to inform our customers. Is this okay? Is this aligned with the what or not? Because if we say, okay, the way you need to communicate to your customer should be this one, you're closing a lot of doors. You're closing a lot of room for innovation, and you're gonna really slow down the process.
Okay, thank you for that. And maybe as one of the last questions, so what is the most mission critical things we need to do in the next 3 years to make the DPP successful in textiles?
So in textiles particularly, I believe we should keep this momentum, because it's really achievable. And I hear a lot of voice saying, okay, we're not going to achieve it. We're not. I think we should keep this focus. A lot of textile companies already have, let's say, RAIN. So this is very important, because it's a basic. I would say a lot of European, at least in the places where I do my shopping, most of the time now I see a tag. So it's a good thing. It's not only Decathlon. I'm not going to make the list of all the brands, but it's quite impressive. So they know the principle of unique ID. They know what RAIN can do. They know how to use it in store. They can come to any kind of Decathlon store and they can see, okay, what they need to do. And I think we need to really drive the way and so increase, I would say, discussion between the different players. I know we are competitors, but in this kind of, let's say, project, it's important that we all go in the right direction. So basically Decathlon is spending a lot of time discussing also with other players,
Yeah.
showing what we are doing. We say, and our chief sustainable officer likes to say, we want to be a beacon of light on some subjects that we think important. Protecting the planet for us is a real subject. We know textile industry is a sector that is quite, let's say, polluting, we could say.
Impactful.
We need to speak together to stop this ultra fast fashion way of doing things, be more sustainable, encourage, let's say, circularity, encourage recycling. And this is all the DPP is all about. So a lot of, let's say, textile brands have the same objective. And especially in Europe, European brands, they have the same objective. And sometimes they don't understand why, with all the effort they make, the public, us, we don't see the effort. And they compare, I would say, European brands that are doing a lot in terms of sustainability with some other brands coming from the Far East, for instance, that do nothing in that perspective. And the DPP will be one way to show it. So basically, I think this is a way where we can cooperate, because recycling is not a matter for Decathlon, it's a matter for the textile industry.
Hervé, I think I couldn't have summarized this in a better way than you did. Thank you so much. So cooperation for better efficiency, for better sustainability, to reach the SDG goals. Thank you so much for your time today, Hervé. And I'm looking forward to talk to you again. See you soon.
Okay, thank you. See you soon.
Bye-bye.